What would you do if the quiet new kid at your school turned out to be the son of one of the most feared mafia bosses in the country? Today's story will make you think twice before judging someone by their silence, so make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live, because what you're about to hear will give you chills. The rain had just stopped when 17-year-old Luca Romano stepped through the iron gates of Ridgewood High. His uniform was crisp, his shoes polished, and his gaze in the cold unreadable. To most, he looked like any new transfer student, but behind those calm eyes lay a past soaked in secrets, discipline, and danger. Luca's father, Dante Romano, was not just any businessman. He was the head of one of Europe's most powerful crime families. Luca wasn't here to make friends. He wasn't here to stand out. His father had sent him to America to live like a normal kid, and whatever that meant. For the first time in his life, Luca had to blend in, hide his name, and pretend he didn't know how to disarm a man twice his size in under 3 seconds. But Ridgewood High had its own kind of predators. 3 of them, actually: Bryce, the arrogant quarterback; Tanner, his loud sidekick; and Cole, the one who smiled before doing something cruel. They ruled the hallways with charm, fear, and a little help from rich parents. And the moment Luca quietly walked past them that morning, head down, they had already picked their next target. "Hey, new kid," Bryce called out, grinning as he blocked Luca's way near the lockers. "You lost? Or are you just too shy to say good morning to your new kings?" Luca didn't even look up. He quietly shifted his backpack and moved aside, but Bryce wasn't done. A shove followed, then laughter. Tanner snatched Luca's notebook, flipping through the pages as if looking for something to mock. "What's this?" "Italian," Tanner said, squinting at Luca's notes. "What are you, some kind of exchange student? You think you're smarter than us?" Luca finally met his eyes. His stare wasn't angry, it was terrifyingly calm. The kind of look that made Tanner's laugh fade for a split second. But then Bryce pushed it further. Maybe he doesn't speak English. Maybe he's just too dumb to talk. "Say something, new kid," Cole taunted. "Or are you scared?" Luca bent down slowly to pick up his fallen notebook. His voice, low and steady, cut through the laughter. "Where I'm from, men who talk too much often disappear." The hallway went silent for a beat. Then Bryce barked out a laugh, trying to shake off the unease. "Oh yeah, you threatening me, kid?" Luca just smiled faintly. That cold, polite kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes, and walked away. But as he turned the corner, a few students who'd been watching whispered nervously. Something about that boy's composure felt dangerous. At lunch, Bryce and his friends decided they'd teach him a lesson. They cornered Luca behind the gym, far from teachers' eyes. Tanner shoved him again. "You think you're tough, huh?" Luca didn't move, didn't blink. He just stood there, still and silent, until Bryce swung. What happened next was over in seconds. Luca sidestepped, caught Bryce's wrist midair, twisted it until Bryce dropped to his knees with a strangled yelp. Tanner charged. Luca blocked, pivoted, and with precise motion swept his leg out, sending him sprawling in the dirt. Cole froze, wide-eyed, as Luca leaned in close to Bryce. "I told you," Luca whispered. "Where I'm from, men who talk too much disappear." Then he released him and walked away, leaving them stunned and shaking. Not a bruise on him, not a drop of sweat, just silence. Later that evening, as Bryce sat nursing his wrist, he muttered, "That kid's not normal. There's something off about him." He didn't know how right he was, because that same night, miles away in a dimly lit mansion, Dante Romano got a call. His security detail whispered, "Sir, someone found out your son's in America. They're asking questions." Dante's eyes narrowed. Then it begins. That night, Luca lay on his narrow dorm bed, staring at the ceiling fan turning slowly above him. His knuckles didn't hurt, his conscience didn't sting, but the silence of the room pressed against him like a weight. He'd promised his father to stay quiet, to stay invisible. Yet on his first day, he had already broken that rule. He opened his phone, scrolled to a single contact. C.O. Marco. His uncle. A message blinked. "Any trouble, ragazzo?" Luca typed back carefully. "Just school stuff. Nothing serious." A few seconds later, another reply came. "Remember who you are. Don't let the Romano name speak for you. You are not your father's shadow." Luca sighed, turning off the screen. He didn't want to be a Romano here. He wanted to be nobody. But the world didn't make that easy. especially not when danger followed the name like smoke after fire. The next morning, word had already spread through the school. The new kid took down Bryce and his gang. By lunchtime, everyone was whispering about it. Some called him a fighter, others said he was ex-military or worse, a runaway criminal. Bryce and his friends avoided him completely, pretending the fight never happened. But fear had a way of talking louder than truth. In the cafeteria, Luca sat alone again, quietly eating his sandwich. That's when Emma, a kind-eyed girl with auburn hair, slid into the seat across from him. "You know," she said, lowering her voice, "you've made quite an impression." Luca looked up, cautious. "Is that a good thing or bad?" She smiled faintly. "Depends on who you ask. Bryce says you attacked him out of nowhere, but people who saw it said he swung first." Luca didn't answer. Emma tilted her head. "You're not from here, are you?" "Does it matter?" he asked quietly. "Maybe not," she said, "but people are curious. You barely talk. You don't use social media. You don't even have a student record before this year. That's mysterious." Luca gave a small, unreadable smile. Curiosity can be dangerous. Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from across the cafeteria. Bryce's tray had slipped from his hands, splattering food across the floor. When his angry eyes met Luca's calm stare, something in Bryce snapped. "This isn't over, foreign boy," he muttered under his breath, picking up the tray. Emma frowned. "Ignore him. He's all bark, no bite." But Luca's gaze stayed locked on Bryce for a second longer. His instincts whispered. That wasn't the last time he'd see that look. That evening, Bryce and his friends gathered behind the bleachers, their faces lit by phone screens. Tanner said, "You saw the way he moved? He's trained, man. No normal kid does that." Bryce clenched his jaw. "I don't care who he is. No one embarrasses me like that. My dad's got people who can find stuff on him. We'll see who he really is." And that was the mistake. 2 days later, a black sedan pulled up to the school gates. Tinted windows, Italian plates, silent engine. Out stepped 2 men in tailored suits and dark glasses. They didn't speak to anyone. They didn't need to. They handed a sealed envelope to the principal and left without a word. Rumors exploded like wildfire. Some said they were FBI. Others whispered Mafia. Luca heard every word but stayed quiet. That afternoon, the principal called him in. "Luca, I don't know what kind of family business your father runs, but I just received a letter from someone very powerful. It says you're to be left alone. No questions asked." Luca's stomach turned. His father had promised to stay out of this. "Did the letter have a name?" he asked softly. The principal shook his head nervously. "Just a red wax seal with an R." Luca exhaled slowly. That seal meant only one thing. His father was watching. As Luca walked out of the office, Emma waited by the lockers. "Everything okay?" He nodded faintly, but his voice was distant. "Sometimes the past doesn't let you hide. It finds you." That night, Bryce got a call from an unknown number. When he answered, a deep voice spoke in a quiet, accented tone. "You've been asking questions about a Romano. Stop." Then, click. Bryce's face went pale. "Romano?" he whispered. The next morning, Bryce avoided eye contact. Tanner didn't show up at all. Cole kept glancing around like someone might be watching. And in the middle of it all, Luca sat quietly in class, staring out the window. The wind rustled the trees outside, and for the first time since arriving at Ridgewood High, he wondered if peace was ever possible for someone like him. Luca thought keeping his head down would make things easier. He was wrong. Ever since that black sedan appeared, Ridgewood High had changed. Whispers followed him like shadows in the hallway. Teachers spoke softly around him. Students avoided sitting too close. And Bryce, the loudest of them all, had gone quiet. But silence, Luca knew, didn't always mean peace. Sometimes it was fear, simmering before an explosion. It came one Friday morning. Luca was on his way to class when he overheard Bryce's voice from the stairwell. "I don't care what that phone call was. Nobody threatens me. I'll make him regret stepping foot here." Luca paused, unseen in the corner, his jaw tightening. He didn't want this. But Bryce wasn't just reckless, and he was desperate to prove he wasn't scared. That made him dangerous. During gym class, Bryce found his moment. While everyone was outside running laps, he slipped into the locker room and found Luca's bag. He dumped its contents out: books, a small knife charm, and a folded photograph. Bryce picked it up. It showed a man with a hard face standing beside a teenage Luca. Behind them, a black car with an insignia shaped like a wolf. "Gotcha," Bryce whispered. Later, he showed the picture to his friends. "Look at this. That guy's name is Dante Romano. I searched him. He's on international watch lists, man. His family runs half of Italy's underworld." Cole's voice shook. "Bryce, if that's true, we need to back off." But Bryce smirked. "No. Now we know what scares him." That evening, a rumor spread through the entire school. Luca Romano, Mafia prince. Someone had leaked the photo online. Within hours, every student had seen it. The next morning, Luca felt the stares before he even entered the building. Phones flashed. Conversation stopped when he passed. He could feel judgment burning against his skin. Emma caught up to him, breathless. "Luca, someone posted your picture online. Everyone's saying your dad is—" He stopped her with a quiet look. "Don't say it." "But is it true?" she whispered. Luca hesitated. "My father is complicated. He's not who I want to be." Emma's voice softened. "Then prove it. Don't let them define you by his name." Her words echoed in his chest, but it was too late. Bryce wasn't finished. That afternoon, he cornered Luca near the parking lot with two seniors from the football team. "Well, well," Bryce sneered, waving his phone. "Look who's been hiding his fancy little family secret. You think being some mafia prince makes you better than us?" Luca's eyes darkened. "Delete that post." "Or what?" Bryce laughed. "You'll send your daddy's goons after me?" The tension snapped. Luca moved before Bryce could blink. A sharp twist of his wrist sent the phone flying. It shattered on the ground. The crowd that had gathered gasped as Luca's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't understand what you're playing with, Bryce. This isn't about pride or power. It's about survival. And you're walking into something you don't belong in." Bryce stumbled back, fear flickering behind his anger. But his pride wouldn't let him stop. "You think you can scare me?" Luca sighed, a deep, weary sound. "I don't want to." That night, something unexpected happened. A car pulled up to Bryce's house, the same sleek black sedan. His father opened the door to find two men in suits standing outside. "Mr. Collins," one of them said politely, handing over an envelope. "A message from Mr. Romano. Tell your son to stay away from Luca, for his own safety." No threats, no shouting, just quiet authority. The men left, and Bryce's father stood frozen on the porch, pale as a ghost. The next morning, Bryce arrived at school looking like he hadn't slept. He walked straight to Luca, who was reading in the courtyard. "Look," Bryce muttered, eyes lowered. "I didn't mean to get into something big. I didn't know." Luca closed his book. "Now you do." Bryce nodded slowly. "You're not like him, are you?" Luca gave a faint, sad smile. "I'm trying not to be." For the first time, Bryce said nothing cruel. He just turned and walked away. But as Luca watched him go, a black car parked across the street caught his attention. The driver lowered his window slightly. A pair of cold eyes met Luca's from inside. His father's man. And in that silent stare, Luca realized the truth. His family wasn't watching to protect him. They were here to control him. The following week felt like calm after a storm, but only on the surface. Luca went to classes, kept his head down, and tried to focus on normal things. Books, homework, Emma's quiet laughter in the library. For a few brief days, he almost believed he could live like everyone else. But deep down, he felt it, the chill of eyes watching him. The black car across the street never moved. Sometimes he saw a reflection in the window behind him, a shape that vanished when he turned. He wasn't being protected anymore. He was being followed. That Friday, while everyone prepared for the school's autumn fair, Luca received a call from an unknown number. "Luca Romano," the voice said, calm and heavy with an Italian accent. "Your father sends his regards. He's concerned about your environment." Luca's pulse quickened. "Who is this?" "Just a friend, but not everyone watching you is." The line went dead. That night, Luca couldn't sleep. He sat by the window of his small dorm, staring out into the empty courtyard. He thought about his father, Dante Romano, a man who ruled empires through fear and silence. And he thought about what it meant to carry that name. He didn't want this life. But whether he liked it or not, the life wanted him. The next morning, Emma noticed how pale he looked. "You okay?" she asked softly. "I think my father found me," Luca said quietly. "And so did someone else." "Someone else?" He nodded. "People who want to hurt him. Might come for me." Emma's eyes widened. "Then we need to tell someone." "No," Luca's tone was firm. "The moment I tell anyone, more people get dragged in. And they won't just come after me. They'll come after anyone close to me." Emma hesitated, then whispered, "Then at least don't face it alone." Before Luca could respond, a loud crash echoed from outside. Students screamed. Teachers shouted for everyone to stay back. When Luca rushed to the window, he saw it. The same black sedan now overturned in the parking lot, flames licking its side. Smoke spiraled into the sky. Luca's stomach dropped. He ran outside despite the teachers yelling. Inside the wreck, he saw two men, his father's bodyguards, motionless. One of them was still clutching a phone. A red wolf insignia gleamed on his ring. Emma caught up to him, terrified. "Luca, what is this?" "Who are they?" He took a shaky breath. "They were my father's men." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Students whispered in shock. Bryce watched from the crowd, realization dawning that the quiet boy he once mocked was living in a war no teenager should face. That evening, Luca received another message, and this time from his uncle, Marco. "They found you. Someone leaked your location. It's not safe there anymore. You need to leave tonight." Luca's hands trembled. "No, not again," he muttered. He'd just started to feel normal. He couldn't run anymore. Then another message came through, one that made his blood run cold. "If you stay, they'll come for the girl." His eyes snapped open. "Emma," he didn't think. He sprinted out into the cold night, finding her at the bus stop near the school gate. She was listening to music, unaware of the black SUV creeping up behind her. "Emma!" he shouted. She turned, just as masked men stepped out of the vehicle. Without hesitation, Luca charged forward. The training his father had drilled into him for years kicked in like muscle memory. One attacker swung. Luca blocked, slammed his elbow into the man's throat, spun, and kicked another in the ribs. A third grabbed him from behind, but Luca drove his head backward, breaking free. "Run!" he yelled at Emma. She hesitated, frozen in shock. "Luca, go!" She ran toward the school lights as the SUV's tires screeched, and the remaining men jumped back inside. One of them shouted, "He's here! Get word to the boss," before speeding off into the darkness. Luca stood panting in the middle of the road, blood running down his cheek. His phone buzzed again, another message from his uncle. "Now you understand. You're not just his son. You're his weakness." Luca's hands tightened around the phone. "Then they'll regret ever touching what's mine," he whispered. He knew what came next. There would be no more hiding. The night air was sharp, filled with sirens and whispers. Luca's heart pounded as he leaned against a lamppost, blood dripping from a small cut above his eye. The world around him felt like it was collapsing, a quiet American school turning into a battleground for his father's enemies. He wiped the blood away and called his uncle. "They found me." "They came for Emma." Marco's voice was low and urgent. "I told Dante this would happen. He never should have sent you there." "I'm done running," Luca said, his tone calm but burning. "If they want me, they'll find me waiting." Marco hesitated. "You sound just like your father." "I'm not him," Luca said coldly. "I'll end this my way." The next morning, Ridgewood High was surrounded by police. The story spread faster than wildfire. Masked men, a burning car, the mysterious student with Mafia ties. Luca didn't go to school. Instead, he went to the one place he knew they'd find him, the old train yard at the edge of town. Rusting freight cars stood silent under the pale dawn light. Luca waited among them, his backpack beside him, hands steady, and soon they came. 3 black SUVs rolled up, engines low and menacing. Doors opened, and men in dark coats stepped out. Their leader, tall, sharp-eyed, smiled faintly when he saw him. "So, the legend's true," the man said. "The son of Dante Romano. I was hoping your father would show himself, but it seems he sent his boy instead." Luca's jaw tightened. You came after my friend. You made this personal." The man chuckled. "Personal? Your father destroyed my family. I'm just returning the favor." "Then you'll fail twice." Before the man could reply, Luca moved. The air exploded into chaos, fists, shouts, the crack of metal hitting flesh. Luca ducked under a punch, grabbed a loose steel rod, and swung with brutal precision. Years of training kicked in, clean, efficient, merciless. One man dropped. Another tried to grab him from behind. Luca twisted, slammed him into the car, and disarmed his weapon in one motion. But there were too many. One of the men struck him across the back with a pipe, knocking him to the ground. The leader aimed a gun at him, sneering. "Your father should have kept you closer, boy." Luca spat blood and glared up at him. He tried. "That's why I ran." A shot rang out, but not from the leader's gun. The man fell, eyes wide, a red mark blooming across his chest. Behind him stood another figure, tall in a dark trench coat, silver hair slicked back. Luca froze. "Father?" Dante Romano stepped forward, gun smoking in his hand, his expression unreadable. "You have your mother's courage," he said softly, "but none of her sense." Luca's chest tightened. "You shouldn't be here." "And yet," Dante said, "here I am, cleaning up after my son." As police sirens grew louder in the distance, the remaining men fled. Dante turned to Luca. "You've made yourself a target. The only way to survive now is to come home." "I'm not going back," Luca said firmly. "I'm not part of your world." Dante's eyes softened for the first time. "That world runs in your blood. You can't change what you are." Luca shook his head. "Maybe not, but I can choose what I become." They stood there, the silence between them heavy with years of distance. A father bound by power, a son desperate for peace. Finally, Dante sighed, slipping his gun away. "Then at least stay alive, Luca, because the name Romano will never stop following you." He turned and walked away into the rising dawn, his black coat disappearing into the light. Luca stood there for a long time, staring after him. Then he looked down at his bloodied hands and the steel rod still clutched tightly. Slowly, he dropped it. That evening, as the sun set, Luca found Emma waiting outside the hospital. She ran to him, tears in her eyes. "I heard the news." "Are you okay?" He nodded weakly. "It's over. For now." She took his hand gently. "You're not your father, Luca. You never were." For the first time in a long while, he smiled. A real one. "Maybe not. But I guess even a Romano can try to live kindly." They walked off together under the streetlights, their shadows long but side by side. A boy who'd inherited a dark legacy, and a girl who saw the light in him despite it. And somewhere in the distance, a black car disappeared down the road, carrying a father who, in his own silent way, was finally proud.